Today we're talking with Simon from Meet Me at the Gate, a cattle farm in Victoria. 3 years ago the farm was facing declining soil health and inconsistent pasture performance. In this case study, Simon explains the changes they made, the results they've seen, and what they've learnt along the way.
Simon Beard, we're down in West Gippsland, suburban Melbourne now, I suppose, opposite fringes of Melbourne, Gippsland, Victoria. We third generation on this farm. We're 250 acres running cows and calves. We do the dealer job, and our majority of our calves will go. We also run a farm gate business, so all our meat goes through our farm gate meat sales. It goes off-site to get processed and cut up, and then comes back to us, and we sell it direct to the public. So my primary goal when I sort of started getting into the regen ag space, and I was seeing a decline in pasture growth on the farm year on year. Obviously, you look at different seasons, and we were quite heavily using nitrogen, urea, and I wasn't seeing the uptake or the growth benefits out of the urea, from what we were 10 years ago. And even chook manure for that matter. We use a fair bit of chook manure as well, and we weren't seeing the results. So I started asking around a little bit, and I started talking to our land care man a bit more and from around our area, and he got me onto the regen ag course, and I sort of started snowballing from there. And then getting in from there, I started looking into the fish and the seaweed and whatnot, and that's sort of where we stumbled across Sonic and natural farming systems. Yeah, so from an application point of view, I've varied it over the last few years from pretty well early days just putting out the fish or the seaweed. So the seaweed I'm a big fan of, even just putting it in the cow troughs. I reckon I see a fair bit out of the cows just from a manure point of view, putting it in the troughs, and also on seed inoculant, or I plant it. I did that this year quite heavily. But from a fish point of view, I've been putting the fish out. The fish smelt good, looked good, and pH was really well. So from a product point of view, I was pretty happy with it. But the mechanism of getting it out was something that I was really struggling with, to the point where I ended up going and buying a comfort. I struggled, especially once I started putting molasses in. I was struggling with filters blocking up anyway. So the clunkiness of the boom sprays was essentially nozzle size. Nozzle size was a big problem, and I couldn't get a big enough nozzle to get the product out well. The early days I was essentially just doing the fish and the seaweed, and I was starting to wonder what I was really doing in terms of, am I just making myself feel good? And then I started digging a little bit deeper into foliar sprays and whatnot. I'd gone right away from the urea applications and gone urea bad. I will say though, I saw some fantastic results when we were still putting a bit of urea out, and I put urea out, and then that night I put the fish out over the top of the urea on the grass. And the results that I saw out of that, I was really impressed by. I was like, whatever's going on here from a biological point of view with the fish and then urea, is obviously there's something going on that's creating some good results. So I really did like that. But I'd sort of got to that point by then of going, well, granular urea is not the greatest option anyway. So I'd sort of gone away from that. But then talking to a few people, I sort of come back to the liquid urea or liquid nitrogen point of view, and went, well, if you're putting it direct on the foliage as a foliar spray, there's a lot of that is urea is actually a very good product for that. So then I started down the track of, okay, I've got my fish, it's doing really well. I put a bit of my mixes now are 15 kilos of urea to the hectare. So I put me urea in, dissolve that, and then I was having trouble with red-legged earth mite, which is our number one pest, I suppose, and lucerne flea. And a fella told me, well, try some molasses. Molasses works really well to try and lift up the sugars in your plants, knocks the lucerne flea around a bit. So I sort of went down that avenue. So now I just put a standard 3 to 4 litres of molasses in to the hectare. And then I progressed along the chain of that, and then I started thinking, well, what about my trace elements? So we started doing some leaf tissues, and then I had a few key trace elements that were a little bit low. So I started putting in a trace element mix as well. And so essentially now I've pretty well got a standard mix that I apply, which is 15 kg to the hectare of urea, 3 to 4 kilos of molasses to the hectare, 5 litres of fish, 10 if I've got plenty of it. I prefer more fish than less, so I'd be happier with 10. And then I'm putting some fulvic acid with it as well, just to help all the everything combine and do what it needs to do. And then I just put a trace element mix down, which is, got your copper, your boron, some manganese in it, and a couple of little things. So that is now my sort of blanket foliar spray, and I'm seeing some really good results out of that. I've been sold on. Essentially, you look at that mix, and I sit very comfortably that we've got our proteins in there. We've got some urea. We're covering all options for grass growth, and it's been an interesting journey to get to that. I'm quite happy with that. I've seen that benefits on twofold. I've seen a massive benefit on grass growth, grass health as well. But I think my surprising one was the animal benefit that I saw out of it. I've been applying, majority of the time I'll apply my foliar 4 to 10 days in front of the cows. And the health benefits, the gut benefits from an animal point of view, I've been really, really impressed with, which really excited me. This is one of our paddocks we resowed. So we resowed the majority of the farm. This is one of our annuals we sowed down. And so this is a multi-species crop. You can see. So we got plenty of different stuff in there. Some oats and winter cereals in there. Plenty of brassicas. And the peas are a bit light on. I was a bit disappointed the peas didn't come up as well as I thought they should have. We've only had, a decent amount of rain since the start of May, really. May's sort of been where we kicked off, which was better result than last year. But it's still been tough enough. So as you say, there's plenty behind me. This paddock's only sitting at about 3 tons of dry matter to the hectare. Ideally, I would have liked to have got that fair bit more biomass on it, get it up to that sort of 4.5, 5 ton, and then grazed it. But sort of in another month or 6 weeks. But we needed the feed, so you need to feed. You got to feed them. I've become very, very big on back fencing now. So essentially, the cattle are only over that bit of the paddock for a day. 2 days, the absolute most. But normally we're moving strip fences every day and back fencing them as well, so that they're only getting that day on it, and that's in having done that has picked up my paddock rotations, or length of my paddock rotation. So you're in a 10 acre paddock, the cows are in here for 10 days, but essentially that bottom end of that paddock, they've stopped grazing that 8 days ago, so it's already got 8 days worth of regrowth on it, which is just helping the system to recover and regenerate quicker. So I look at back fences now as real money saving aspect, because you're growing grass before you would have otherwise. If I go to produce shop and get an IBC of fish, it's going to cost me $3.50, $4 a litre. And then you looked at the on-farm system and went, well, it's going to cost me $1.50 or whatever it was first 1,000 litres or almost. It just, the financial point of view just stacked up. It was like, well, taking a risk on the fish out of the shop, and I'm taking a risk out of the fish if I do it myself, but the financial risk is a lot less if I'm going to do it myself, and then I can afford to repeat it again. So yeah, to me it was a no-brainer. I think it's nearly just a personal point of view, really honing in on what we're putting out on the paddock. You can just see that there's benefit there, but just exactly what we are putting out, and then you can compare that right to a shop floor one. So it's interesting to go, well, maybe there is something in the DIY aspect. I got plenty of friends within our farm discussion group that are doing similar stuff with brought in fish and this and that, and they're not seeing the results I am. So it's interesting to go, well, maybe there is something in the DIY aspect. Obviously, there's greater biology. I believe there's a greater biology within it that I don't think we're giving enough credit for what the biology is doing.
For Simon, improving soil health has been the key to improving the farm as a whole. Through regenerative farming practices and producing their own fish and seaweed biofertilisers, the Beard family have been able to reduce input costs while building healthier pastures and a more resilient farming system.